My name is Stephanie Waddles. I am a speech therapist in Perry County Schools. I've been teaching yoga and mindfulness for, I don't know, 5 years, something like that. I became very passionate about mindfulness because my first yoga class I took, I was at a speech conference in Louisville. And I went to a class, and I think it was Mind-Body Connection, maybe the name of the studio. And so I was in class, and I didn't know anyone there. And in the middle of the class, we did a quiz. Tears started running down my face. I was like, what's happening? No one else here is crying. I'm not sad. Why am I crying? So that sparked my curiosity in yoga and mindfulness. Why did this movement bring on a physical, emotional reaction in me? And so I'm the type of person I want to know why this happens and how it happens. So that's a little overview of me. I've become very passionate in the past 10, 15 years about social emotional learning, emotional intelligence, and how, that is, we've got academic intelligence, we've got emotional intelligence. If we don't have emotional intelligence, really what is thoughts? So we'll get started here. Our agenda, we're going to introduce ourselves. I'm Stephanie. You all want to go and tell me what you know about mindfulness, why you're interested, and how you feel like maybe this can help you.
My name's Ashley Williams, and I'm from Morgan County. I teach at the high school. I've kind of been all over the place, though. That's what we were talking about. It's kind of good to me, especially because you're diverse, you're everywhere. So I've been at every level, but a lot of times I get pulled into the behaviors, and it's because I'm very calm. And so I just am interested in seeing how I could possibly use this more and help in behavior issues.
I'm Laura Alder. This is my first year teaching, full year teaching, so I started in March, but I've taught regular classroom for 17 years. So I'm hoping that this is going to help me regulate my students' behavior. With them curb those tendencies to.
Yes.
I'm Brooke Stevens. This is my 9th year teaching, started in grade school, 3rd year teaching special education. I just kind of curious because I've had some students, this past year that really went through a lot emotionally, and I wanted to find some strategies and ways to help them cope.
My name is Bill Berger. I work in a middle school special ed teacher. I wanted to break from being I wanted to get away from being involved.
Listen, I know, all through the year, we will see Denny Paul. And all the goodness he has to share.
I'm not that good.
Well, it's a job, man.
Salary's a salary.
Right. Heart behind salary, though.
Hi, my name is Carolyn. I do speech therapy in the Norfolk County.
Okay.
Is a little here. And I was just kind of curious. Not just the students' myself also.
Right, absolutely.
I'm Sam. I'm from Alton County in SLP, and this is also my 27th year of doing speech therapy. So I'm possibly be retiring.
Right.
And I was just interested in just mindfulness, just period, in general. Not even, with my students, but myself.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm Cheryl. This is my 8th year teaching special education. I have done yoga for years, so I'm very experienced in meditation. Yeah, I've done it for years. And we actually implemented it on our club day. Like, we had an exercise program, but my friend and I, the co-teacher with me, we had them come in and they did meditation. And we would put on the music. Like, I've done it where they put blankets on you and spritz. I've done those types. And I feel like, especially if your mind is racing constantly, the kids even told me, they were like, oh, it's so relaxed.
I know. They
you got
see
a
it, they
racing
feel it.
brain. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm the same way. It's like the only time I come down is when I have to. And and we did breath work with them and all that. And they actually, even the boys that normally wouldn't be into that, they came to us after and they were like, we like this. So
Yes.
it helps.
Hello, my name is Tracy Watson. I've been in special education starting my 26th year. Past couple of years, I've just been doing the special ed testing, so I see all different kinds of students. I'm just here to learn and just different strategies.
I'm Leanna, this is my 8th year in special ed, and I'm just whatever. Anything really like.
Yeah, so this is my 22nd year. I finished my 22nd year in speech. And ladies, you can attest to this. I mean, you can only say, so many times. And then, so I think that's kind of what maybe sparked my interest in other things.
Well, I will say this, we've done speech therapy and articulation, everything for all the years, but we got a smart board in our rooms,
Mhm.
a couple years ago? And we use a background music on there all the time.
Yes.
But it does seem to help students feel more relaxed in our classes. You can see
Oh,
a difference.
absolutely.
I mean,
And breathing is so important for speech
and
production,
it helps us,
Yeah.
because we have always been in rooms that usually didn't either have windows or didn't have
Or a closet.
anything in it. So I mean, it's us as well, just
Yeah.
my mindset, mine,
Right.
you know.
So when I started thinking about this, I thought, do I want to address mindfulness for our students or us? So here's the thing, we got to start at the top and work the way down. If we are not regulated, if we are not calm, if we don't have that homeostasis in our body, how can we be all that we need to be for our students, you know? So, so how does this resonate with you guys? Where do you feel like you fall? Mindful? Mindful.
I see trees and dirt.
Right, so mindfulness is a evidence-based practice. It's not woo-woo, it's not a hippie thing, it's not, it's evidence-based, so it's science, it's real science. And there's tons of studies to back this up. Our brain, we have like 70 to 90,000 thoughts a day. And that's a lot if you think about it. You may be like, I have way more, So our mind is always looking for the future. What we've got to do next, our to-do list, our chores, our responsibilities. We're always planning for the future. Or we're ruminating the past. Things that we wish we could change, do, undo, just being in the past. So we're never really in the present moment. So I'll move on to that in just a minute. So the definition of mindfulness, and there's all kinds of definitions, but mindfulness is paying attention to the present, in the present moment, with curiosity, non-judgment, and compassion. So, does that sit well with everyone? Does that make sense? Or not? If not, I'll explain. So, with curiosity, rather than judging, because it's one of the hardest things, you can go to a yoga class, you can go to a hot yoga class, you can go to a vinyasa style class, and it's up and down, it's hard, but if you pay attention with curiosity, feelings and emotions may arise. That's the hardest thing you'll do, is to sit with your thoughts and your feelings. Because like I said, our mind's always racing, we're never still, we're never in the present. And so without judgment means that we're not judging our thoughts, we're not judging our feelings, anything that may come up, we're not judging that. It is what it is. How does that resonate in your body? How does that feeling, that emotion affect your body? Because there is truly a mind-body connection. So the benefits of mindfulness is it reduces stress. Anybody stressed in here? Doing stress? Yeah, when we start school, we're really stressed. It helps regulate our emotions. So, have you guys ever been like a really close call on an accident? You're gonna slam on your brakes and you feel it through your whole body. Right. So, and that's when that happens, we go into the part of the brain, the amygdala. Anybody familiar with the amygdala?
So, yeah.
So, the amygdala 2 little cone-like structures in the brain, 5 flight or freeze. Has anyone been there since COVID 2020? I mean, we've all been in that amygdala state of mind, you know, we never know what's next, we never know, you know, so it affects us, it affects our minds, worry, constantly worry, you know, what's next, what's next, what's next. So we're never calm. And so when we use mindfulness and breathing, there's all kinds of mindfulness stuff that we can do. Activities, mindful walking, mindful eating, anything to be mindful. But when we get ourselves out of the amygdala, and I will not bore you with the neuroscience of it, which is very fascinating. When we get out of the amygdala and we get into the prefrontal cortex, that's where we can make rational decisions. So when we breathe, it's homeostasis in the body, it activates the parasympathetic nervous system, and we're calm. The mind is calm, the body's calm. And then we're able to give. It lowers the anxiety levels, again, by breathing. We activate the parasympathetic nervous system. Improves brain function, lessens symptoms of depression. So depression links back to ruminating past. We wish that we didn't say this, didn't do that. We wish we could undo something or we could do it over. So we're in the past. And those feelings, those repetitive thoughts, brings on feelings of depression. Lowers blood pressure, eases headaches and migraines, facilitates post-traumatic growth, improves academic performance, builds neural thickness in the areas of the brain responsible for resilience, focus, gratitude, empathy, and compassion, all the things necessary for emotional intelligence. So let's do a breathing activity. Y'all comfortable with that? Okay, if you want to, just sit up nice and tall in your chair. You can find a soft gaze. You can at the ceiling or the floor, or you can close your eyes. And just notice your breath. Nothing to change, nothing to fix. You're just breathing. And just become aware of where the breath is entering the body. So through the nostrils, or your mouth breathing. Notice if your breath is maybe short and shallow, or if it's an extended breath, maybe releasing the air into the body, into the belly. So we constantly have repetitive thoughts. Those thoughts are going to enter, bring your awareness back to your breath. Now, if you want to take a breath in through your nose, all exhale out through the mouth. Make a little noise. And then start to begin breathing through your nose, in through your nose, into your belly, expanding the rib cage, let the belly fill up into or air fill up into the belly. Notice any tightness or tension you may feel in the body. So if you want to start from 10, count backwards. 10 being your inhale, 9 being your exhale. And if you lose track, you can start all over. Ready. Back to that room. So how'd that feel? Do you feel any difference? Be honest. If you don't, that's fine. It's practice.
It always relaxes me.
Right.
It makes me more aware of my body, which
Right.
it's a good feeling.
Right. And so self-awareness is the foundation of social emotional learning and emotional intelligence. We have to be aware of what these thoughts may trigger in our body, what those feelings may feel like. And so we can't eliminate the stress, but we can have tools in our toolbox to kind of decompress. And so breathing, you can do it all day long. Kids love it. It's crazy. I go into, when I have extra time, I'll go into the preschool and kindergarten classrooms and do whole group activities and, maybe read a book, talk about the breathing, and then, we'll move a little bit. And there's always at least 2 kids that are out. And it's just like, how'd you do that? It's like, it's magic. It's just the breath. And it's something that we do all day long, but we're never aware of because we're always thinking ahead or behind. So we're never really in the present moment. And that's where life exists. If you think about it, so you're with, I'll give you an example. Because I thought I was pretty mindful until I started driving a stick shift. And then that put me way on top of my game because I've got to pay attention to everything, every curve, everything, So it's not just the brake and the gas anymore, it's a lot of. And so I was out on 80 in front of Walmart one day and I was tooting along and had to hit my brakes and was like, from fifth gear, and I was like, So it's kind of, you don't realize how you passed on your way to work, and it's like, how? I don't remember passing Walmart. I don't remember where do you think your mind is, what you got to do for the day, So we're never really in the moment, and it's been a game changer for me in my life, the way I see the world and my interactions with my child, with my students, with my coworkers. It really changes it because when you're present, you can be a better friend, you're a better mom, you're a better dad, you're a better son, daughter, because you're present. So we went over some of the neuroscience. Like I said, breathing, I feel like we're constantly in the amygdala. We're always in that fight or flight state. And that's a bad feeling. Do you all recall any feelings that you had maybe during COVID? The uncertainty, the anxiety. So we're in that fight or flight. So if you can learn to breathe and learn how to get out of that state of fight or flight, you're more calm. So the prefrontal cortex, we want to use breathing to activate this part of the brain where we can make clear decisions. The parasympathetic nervous system that is activated when we do breathe. I won't get into all the stuff and the cortisol and all the icky stuff, but science shows us that we have the ability to rewire our brains. Speech therapist, did you hear how hard that? We have the ability to rewire our brains. So we constantly, 85% of the thoughts that we have are garbage. When you make no, I've always got the good thoughts. But we're always ruminating, we're always worrying, so we're never really in the present moment, and so those are just repetitive thoughts. And so that's what we tell ourselves, it's the story that we tell ourselves. And when we have a consistent mindfulness practice, then that rewires the neurons. We have millions of neurons in the body, and so when we change the way we look and the way we breathe and being aware, then that builds more neurons. And it just leads to a happier, more joyful life because you see all the beauty around us rather than all the external stimuli that we're being bombarded with. Yeah, so that's called neuroplasticity, is being able to rewire the brain. Okay, we're ready here. I'm gonna admit, I have voice myself. think, I'm a talker. So you see all the tabs that I have here open? Can anyone relate to that? Do you ever feel like that's how your brain is? You have all these tabs open, so you can never really kind of focus on what you need to focus on. Yeah, so this is a little bit about neuroplasticity.
Not so long ago, many scientists believed that the brain did not change after childhood, that it was hardwired and fixed by the time we became adults. But recent advances in only the last decade now tell us that this is simply not true. The brain can and does change throughout our lives. It is adaptable, like plastic. Hence, neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity. How does neuroplasticity work? If you think of your brain as a dynamic, connected power grid, there are billions of pathways or roads lighting up every time you think, feel, or do something. Some of these roads are well-traveled. These are our habits, our established ways of thinking, feeling, and doing. Every time we think in a certain way, practice a particular task, or feel a specific emotion, we strengthen this road. It becomes easier for our brains to travel this pathway. Say we think about something differently, learn a new task, or choose a different emotion. We start carving out a new road. If we keep traveling that road, our brains begin to use this pathway more, and this new way of thinking, feeling, or doing becomes second nature. The old pathway gets used less and weakens. This process of rewiring your brain by forming new connections and weakening old ones is neuroplasticity in action. The good news is that we all have the ability to learn and change by rewiring our brains. If you have ever changed a bad habit or thought about something differently, you have carved a new pathway in your brain and experienced neuroplasticity firsthand. With repeated and directed attention towards your desired change, you can rewire your brain.
Thoughts? I mean, I think that's pretty cool. Because we live in a crazy, fast-paced world. And so we just repeat those same thoughts and feelings and actions. And so, minimize it. Oh. Okay, go there, go there. Obvious, sound like a computer. So we have the ability, and science backs it up, to rewire our brains. That's pretty cool. And these kids, it's so crucial that we start with little itty bitties, preschool, because they love it. They love it. And then we can also incorporate STEM into teaching them about neuroplasticity, about their brains, about their emotions, their feelings, and then that helps them regulate so they can be learners. So we also talked about the neuroscience of it. And so this is a short video about
Listen,
the handball.
are you experiencing
Anyone
ear
that?
known as tinnitus? Well, it's serious stuff.
Dan Skull.
Hold your hand up like this, fold your thumb in, close your fingers down. This is a model of your brain. So the eyes, if there's a head here, they'd be looking out the front this way. This is the outside of that brain, that wrinkly part you see when you see a brain. And at the very front, right behind your forehead here, the smart part, the prefrontal cortex. It makes the decisions. Now inside, you can't see it, but we're going to open it up like this and we're going to see the thumb area and down here in the palm. These two areas work together. The limbic system, the emotions, the feelings part. When you feel scared, when you're really angry, when you're out of control, when you're upset and you can't think straight. And here, the brain stem keeps your heart beating and your lungs breathing and makes you move your hand away from a hot stove really quickly. These two areas work together. Saves your life from a tiger. It sends out a warning signal, danger, danger, and our heart beats, we breathe fast and shallow, all our muscles tense so that we can run or we can fight and save our lives. Which is very handy if a tiger is chasing you. Not so handy if you're sitting in a classroom. Now what happens? The alarm will go off, and they're false alarms. You know false alarms in the school when the fire alarm goes off and there was no fire, and we all have to leave the building anyway? Well, that's what happens here. Somebody might criticize you, or your teacher tells you to sit down and please do your work, and you get all upset. That's not a real alarm. You're not really in danger. Yet, the alarm is set and you flip your lid. You lose the smart part. And this part is now in control. What can you do to get this smart part back? Start breathing slow, in through your nose, out through your nose, way down into your belly. Let your shoulders go. Relax. Relax. Relax your body and breathe. This will trick this apart. Look what's happening. The smart part. You get your smart part back. Because whatever got you upset, most of the time, is a false alarm.
Y'all still with me? You guys zoned out yet? So how do we get back to the smart part? Through our brain, through our breath. Or not. Yeah. Yeah, so when we become aware of what flips our lid, then we can self-regulate, calm ourselves. And then when we understand that and we're on board, then we can teach our students how to do that too. So what kind of behaviors are you guys seeing? It's been a crazy world since 2020 coming back. I've never seen anything like it in my 22 years. Never. I'm sure y'all know. So what are you seeing? What's some common behaviors?
External stressors that people stress about that they have absolutely no control.
Right. And that's the huge thing. I mean, they have no control over their environment, the external stimuli, and they're being bombarded with it constantly. Whether it's their electronic devices, it's the TV, it's the body, it's the uncertainty of where they're going to spend the night, or if they're going to have food to eat. Just, those basic things sometimes.
So one of the things that I noticed, the Long Bear region, the flooding last year, going into the schools and things like that, is if it got cloudy or dark or started raining really hard or whatever,
Yeah.
our kids would have that anxiety and they would get real nervous or anxious or start, just get real antsy, fidgety,
Yeah.
And off task and worrying.
And they don't know.
So, and you as a teacher, you can't say, everything's gonna be all right, because you don't know yourself, but all we can do is, most of our folks, the kiddos, our teachers went through the same thing the kids went through, so they're helping them because they're trying to handle that stressor and that emotion, those things themselves, so they're, the coping strategies that they're using, they're teaching the kids to use as well.
Mhm.
And I think with in McGoffin County, the tornado that hit, what was that, 10, 12 years ago, has it been that long? Anyway, I imagine that there was all kinds of, not saying PTSD, but those traumatic experiences that those kids went through and witnessed. Every time it got cloudy or storm or the wind started blowing really hard, that brought them back to what they were thinking. So those are some things that, just environmental things that are.
Right.
That are-
Yes, it's trauma, and we've all experienced trauma. I'm sure you guys have done a lot of trauma-informed care. I'm also a trauma-informed mindfulness facilitator. So I went through an extensive training, learned all about neuroscience and all that. But what he's saying is true. Like I live on 476, it was one of the areas that was slammed by the flood. The most, I wasn't affected directly, but my people were. The most heartbreaking, devastating, if you've been through any kind of physical disaster, it's bad. I mean, it affects you here, your whole body. And so we have these kids that come, and like he was saying, when it rains, I lost everything. So it triggers all these feelings and emotions, and then we get behaviors. And that's where it gets challenging for us. So when we can come together and we can be mindful ourselves and we're connected and centered, then we can better help our babies. And so they don't know how to regulate. They don't know what they're feeling. They just know that there's emotions, there's feelings, but they don't know. They can't label emotions or feelings. They just know that it kind of makes them, I don't think they're even aware. I mean, they act out. And so when we can teach them, and we can teach them at 3 about their brains, about breathing, and they love it, y'all. They love it. And so that's really amazing to me. And so when they're able to calm themselves, self-regulation for the little ones, then they can learn. So this is FYI. Did you guys know that our attention span is less than a goldfish? I mean, how scary is that? And it's true. Science tells us that. I don't know how, but it's there. You can research it. But it's crazy. So, types of mindful activities. We can do mindful walking. And that's why yoga and mindfulness is so accessible to us, because we can do it anywhere. No one has to know that we're breathing to try to calm our nervous system.
I think a good thing right now is I've noticed, I taught this years ago in the behavior unit with my students. I was in there with boys that could not control their emotions. And I was on YouTube Googling, and I would bring them back. I'd be like, the science is that you can control your emotions if you learn to. It's not something that you can't be taught. So I would teach them, if you have a negative emotion, you can put that feeling in its place, because not all emotions are true. And then I would do the breathing. I did, all of this. Now I'm co-teaching, and I've noticed that their therapists, they're coming in now, and they're like, my therapist says to do this, and they're learning this too with therapy. And I've co-taught with Brooke, and I started noticing a pattern. I would be like, he's getting antsy, he's getting ready to get mad. So I'd say, come here. I'd take them, walk them down the hall, they'd do their little breathing exercises, and they started realizing their triggers. I would say, I noticed that your behavior escalates when this happens. And when this happens, you need to tell yourself, this is not a big deal. Keep repeating it over and over. This is not a big deal. He doesn't mean it this way. And they started doing better, noticing what worked for them.
Right.
And just taking them out of the class. We would walk around 1 or 2 times. But I think it's so cool that when I first started the behavior unit, these kids had no idea any of this. And now it's becoming more common,
Right.
so that they're understanding they can fix some things. They can learn, relearn, rewire their brain.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's
And they do. I mean, they love to learn. They
Yeah.
do. And especially when they can feel it and experience it.
I even had one kid that he was so emotional. He had a lot of trauma. And I told him, I said, every time you listen to music, you're listening to sad music. And he wasn't aware of that. And just that one little trick, I noticed, I was like, he's never crying anymore. I was like, you just have to learn and accommodate yourself. What is going to work with me? What is going to keep me from being sad, And
Right.
so, yeah, it's funny how
It is. It's amazing.
it can work.
Yeah. Just by breathing, nothing fancy.
Yeah.
No, strategies and all this stuff.
Yeah,
Just a breath.
just awareness of what's triggering you, and when I do get triggered, I need to take a deep breath and tell myself what I should be thinking. Like,
Going off your neuroplasticity point, the younger you are, the actual higher ability to make adaptations because the habits or thoughts or whatever is already set in stone. It's the fact that that's why children 3, 4, 5 years old who's bilingual and know Spanish, English much better than maybe their parents because they're able to take in information and set that into.
Right.
So that's like even catching them in middle school, they haven't fully set in their ways. And I'm cognitively developed person at 25 years old, you're kind of SOL because they've done it for their whole life and their brain has developed. Exactly.
Right. But we have potential to rewire the brain.
Correct.
So
But
we're not a done deal.
no, absolutely,
Give up hope.
I mean, yeah, and I had anxiety and depression, and when I started learning this stuff, I was like, nobody's ever told me negative emotions aren't always true. And I learned I'm
It's the story
escalating
that we
things. Yeah,
tell
it's the
ourselves.
narrative that I'm creating that once I learned that, I was like, oh my God, it did fix a lot of things. And then I noticed triggers that was making me more anxious. And I mean, it's like, I'm 45 now, and it's like, I've learned this since I've been out of high school.
Mhm.
Like, so now I've taught my kids, when they were in high school, there's a lot, my son had anxiety, and I taught him this, and it helps. It really does work. So,
It really
yeah,
does.
you can rewire.
Yeah, it's really cool. So the thing is, we have to become aware ourselves, and we have to teach children how to become aware of those feelings. Kids, and I'm not being ugly, but kids are not getting what they need at home. They may have their needs met, like the basic Maslow safety, and maybe not. But they're not getting they're not being taught empathy, gratitude, and compassion, all the things that, and so a lot of teachers say, well, it's not my responsibility, it's not my job to teach these kids. I'm not a counselor, I'm not this, I'm not that. And I get that, I do. But we went into this profession for a reason, because we care, and we love them, and we want to make a difference. And so I feel like that mindfulness and everything that you do, is out of kind of your scope of practice. But we all have the common interests as the kids. But if we teach them how to identify those feelings and emotions, books are great. If you guys want to email me, I can send you links to books that kids really like, and it explains emotions and how they can label and identify. Because if they can't label and identify that this thought of going home to no food, or whatever the case may be, is linked to this feeling in my body, And then when they're aware of that thought and then that feeling, how can they regulate that? And so you can be creative and teach them, and they love it. They love it, and it makes such a difference. And the teachers will say, wow, they've been calm all day. And I'm like, just breathe with them. You don't even have to teach them the science of it. You don't have to teach them about the brain. You have to just breathe with them, And so I encourage you with your students, maybe start your day with just breathing, Doesn't have to be anything fancy or elaborate, until you build your own practice. But we have to teach kids how to recognize and self-regulate. So I'm ready to y'all. Sorry. Yeah, and so people think, oh, she's just a hippie, she's just, it's not that. It's not it's real.
Just for one, from watching that, except my kids, I have one little guy I have lots of little guys that like to make that.
Yeah, and so we can't address these kids in that meltdown state. We cannot. So it's important that we have these tools in place and teach them how to breathe and how to self-regulate.
Identify that it's just I tell my kids, it's just a feeling. It doesn't have to be the whole day, it's just a feeling.
Right, so the science is
just wanna
feeling
breathe through it at the point of things. I
Yeah.
usually count, and then I'm like, by the end I say, it's almost over, it's almost over.
Mhm.
And usually by the time I get to the end of the night.
right. So the human emotion feeling only lasts 90 seconds. That's all we feel it. But how many times have you been hurt or had a negative emotion, but you feel it for days or weeks? You know why? You know why? This is the story. This is the story we keep telling ourselves. So when we can bring to the present moment and kind of be aware of those thoughts and those thought processes, then we can come back to the present moment, present, be centered. Okay, I'm getting off that here. Art is very good for mindfulness, brings you into the present moment. And so it doesn't have to be breathing, it doesn't have to be drawing or coloring or whatever. It's whatever brings you to the moment, that you're not distracted by the external stimuli, whether, through all of our senses, whether it's your phone or the noises or, whatever it is. Mindful eating. I've battled with my weight my entire life. I love food, but how many times do you just eat, but you don't taste the food? You're watching TV, you're on Facebook, you're on TikTok, Instagram, are you ever really present while you eat? And so, mindful eating, I wish we had more time, and maybe Doug can fix it where we can do more of these, and then, teach you guys more, because I love to share this. Because it's so beneficial for us and our students. Yoga, there's the mind-body connection. What goes on up here directly affects the body. So the fist, brain stem. This, our brain, is a few pounds, but it's the biggest, fastest computer in our body, faster than any computer. And so, what goes on up here directly affects this. So, anybody need to release their jaw, relax their jaw right now? The shoulders, let the shoulders fall from their ears. We naturally hold tension in our jaws and our shoulders. There's been times, it happens, that I'm like, I'm stressed out and, everything's going on, I can't clear my mind, and I notice my jaw is clenched. My shoulders, and then when you just release, let go, it just makes everything better. So, do you guys have paper? I'm sorry, so sorry, I do not have handouts for you. So I'll go on, I'll finish this up. Music is powerful. Movement, whether it's yoga, if it's running, if it's lifting weights, whatever, you can be in the moment. Journaling is amazing. Do a brain dump at night. Write it down, let it go. Brushing your teeth. We all brush our teeth this morning. So, what were your thoughts when you were brushing your teeth?
I'm late.
No. Yeah, go. Right, so if you just be mindful, maybe the sensation, the movement, anything that we do, we can bring mindfulness to it. Whether it's walking, walk like your feet or kissing the earth, just bring awareness there. So I always like to do gratitude. Like in my yoga classes, I always end with gratitude. Does anyone have a consistent gratitude practice in here?
I write down, like journal, everything I'm grateful for, at
Yeah.
least 5 things that day, so.
Yeah. So, if you want to just draw a flower, you don't have to. But like draw a flower, a little circle, and then draw your petals, and just write a few things that you're grateful for in this moment. And I'll continue talking. So gratitude practice is a part of mindfulness. And when we build a strong, consistent, steady gratitude practice, it changes our whole perspective on life. We can make the worst of times bearable. So I teach classes at the Sapling Center downtown. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. What exactly is the Sapling Center? It's like an outreach day. It's like an outreach wraparound service. And so a lot of these kids I didn't realize until like 3 weeks in, all these kids that I was working with were homeless. And I was like, wow, you know? And so we always start out our class with gratitude. You know, what are you grateful for in this moment? And that's the hardest thing for people. You know, it's like, everything's bad, everything's wrong, you know? And it's really hard for them. And so it can be just the simplest things. It can be the sunshine day, it can be the temperature of this room, it can be your friends, it can be your family, whatever, you know. Just a consistent gratitude practice will change your life, I promise. Like the flood, for example, for me. Like I said, I wasn't affected, but my people were. My people were. And I would go home in the evenings, I would go back to Floyd County and stuff with my granny. And I was like, how can my heart be so broken, but I feel so fulfilled at the same time? And you know, it was really odd, but I was so grateful to be able to help, you know, do what I could. So some students success with mindfulness, and there are research and studies that show increase in test scores. Elementary students who practice mindfulness exhibit greater pro-social behaviors, emotional regulation, and academic performance. Teenagers studying for a general education certificate who participated in a mindfulness program experienced lower depression and anxiety, which contributed to improved academic attainment. Children with ADHD display less aggression and conduct problems when exposed to mindfulness therapy, which helps them focus on their academics. Children from lower socioeconomic backgrounds who participated in a 5-week mindfulness program reported decreased stress, allowing them to focus on school. Mindfulness may even be an effective tool for addressing bullying at the source, improving empathy with tools like mindfulness, and improving social and emotional learning. The key to stopping bullies before they become bullies. And that goes back to SEL and starting, you know, itty bitties. You know, you teach them empathy, compassion, and they get to grow a beautiful, kind, loving world. So when we practice mindfulness throughout the day with our kids, just breathing, it brings their focus, their attention back. You know, because I'm sure you all have zoned out a million times. Okay? It's normal, it's natural. So how can we share this gift of mindfulness in the workplace? You know, it is. If we're calm, we're centered, and we're focused, then we can, it builds better relationships because we're present with our people, we're present with our administrators, we're present with our students, we're present with our colleagues. We listen better. There's just a lot of things. So how do we get there in the present moment? We spend so much of our time doing that we become humans doing rather than humans being. We ruminate in the past and have feelings of guilt or regret over things done and undone, or we say in the future feeling fear or anxiety over things that might happen. And like I said before, repetitive thoughts rob us of the present moment. Did anyone happen to notice the birds singing this morning when they walked outside? For real, be honest. It's okay if you didn't.
Only thing I hear.
Huh?
There's no one else around me, it's the only thing I hear.
Right.
I know frogs and crickets.
Right. But so many times, right, well, that's my entertainment too. But so many times, our mind is so full, that we don't notice the little things. We don't notice the beauty of nature singing around us. We don't notice all the colors of the trees. We don't notice because we're so busy planning or regretting. So I want to end with how much time do we have, Doug?
You got about 15 minutes.
Perfect. So we're going to end with a body scan. Is anybody familiar with that?
Is it where you notice every part of all of those? Those are cool.
Yeah. So when you breathe, and you don't have to breathe any particular way here, you don't have to change your breathing. But when I say belly breathing, are you all familiar with that? What that means to breathe into your belly? Okay, at the beginning when I said, notice your breath, where is it landing in your body? Are you taking shorter, shallow breaths? Does it land here in your chest? Or do you feel expansion of the ribs when you breathe? So maybe just place your hands on the top of your rib cage and just breathe naturally. So with your hands here, do you feel any expansion? If you're not intentionally breathing into your belly? Right. So deep belly breathing is key because that activates part of the nervous system that we want to calm. So you can push your belly out, fill it up with air. With kids, there's tons of things, but there's bear breath, loud breath, bee breath, all the breaths. And they all do, basically the same thing, but there's other things. But for today, we're just gonna try to deepen your breaths just a little more. So, if you want, you can find a nice tall seat. And nice posture, lengthen up through the spine, the front of the head, reaching towards the sky. So you can find a soft gaze, ceiling, floor, or you can close your eyes. Just begin noticing your breath. So any feelings or thoughts that may arise, completely normal. Just imagine you throw them on a cloud and they pass on by in the sky. Now bring attention to your scalp, your head. Release any tightness there. Tiny muscles of the forehead. Notice if they're furrowed. Release. Release and relax the tiny muscles in and between your eyes. Jaw. Is there any tightness there? Tension. Relax your jaw. Time to fall naturally. The shoulders. Maybe release the shoulders from the ears and just let them fall. The arms put them in your lap or on the table. Relaxed. Still. Head to the hips. Notice lots of contact between your body and the chair. Down the legs. Feet. Notice your feet. Contact. Your feet. Shoes in the earth. Bring awareness to gravity holding you down. Body is still, calm. Mind as well. The monkey mind starts to go in overdrive. Bring your awareness back to the rise and fall of the breath. As you find yourself calm and still, think of 3 things that you're grateful for in this moment. Ready to start to give your fingers and toes a little wiggle. Maybe some larger body movements with the head, shoulders, arms. Bring awareness back into the room. The sounds that you may hear. Temperature. Your eyes are closed. You can open whenever you're ready. How was that? Were you able to focus? It's hard. It's a practice. Just like basketball. You have to practice to be good. Just like any hobby or interest that you have to practice. And so mindfulness and yoga is no different. It is a practice. When you never master it, you just progress. So practice makes progress. Do you notice a difference in maybe your mind, your body? So hopefully we can do more of these, and we can do like strategies and activities that we can do with our children. But I feel like the main focus is you guys, is us. You know, because we have to be there first, because we can never bring a child into a calm state from overstimulation. It's not going to happen. So if you practice, have consistent practice, and you're calm and you're centered, teach your students, then we want to see less and less behaviors. Doesn't mean the world's going to get any less crazy, and they're not going to have all this stuff coming at them constantly. I mean, you know, we do. I mean, it's constant. So can you imagine these little guys that have absolutely no control? But the one thing they do have control over is the breath and the thoughts. So I thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned. I hope you feel calm and peace and can go about your day and be joyful and find all the good and all the craziness and madness of the world. My email address is debbie.waddles@perry. You can find me on Facebook. I have like 3 or 4 profiles, I think. I can't remember the passwords. But anyway, you can find me there. If you have any questions, if you want access to books or want to know more about anything, reach out to me. I would love to talk about it. I love talking about it. Because I just feel like this is so, it's needed, it's necessary. Because if we want children to learn, we've got to teach them down here.
I'll tell you what helped me too with when I first started practicing meditation, my mind would race and I was like, I'm never gonna get this. And then, cause I did YouTube and I would watch people, they said to use an anchor.
Yes.
So like when you're just laying there, your mind starts, leaving the anchor, like you could picture a rose or something in your mind. Your mind starts saying, oh my God, I've got to do this. Go back to your anchor. And I practiced that and now it's like I can completely clear. And I never thought I could do that.
Right.
It took a long time.
It really does.
Yeah.
It's a practice.
Yeah.
I mean, it truly is a practice. We don't just sit down and meditate or breathe and be awesome at it. It doesn't happen
And
like
I
that.
told my
It's a practice.
kids the YouTube videos, they do a great job. You have to pick the ones that are best for you, like a 5 or 10 minute one. And I told the kids, look it up because that's what we would do, a lot of those. And then they would have the sounds and then the person guiding you and then practice the anchoring. So they really enjoyed, the middle schoolers really liked the meditation practice.
And it's crazy, you all. When our now superintendent was principal at Viper, he allowed me to do a all-day yoga day with all the students, and so it was the best day ever because I knew that they left there and they were calm. They were a little like, do I feel this way? Because it triggers some feelings and emotions, and that's what makes it hard to sit with those feelings and thoughts. But then find your anchor, and my anchor is my breath. The rise and fall, and so our mind is completely out in the field all the time. I mean, it's not just me, it's not just you, it's everyone, it's those repetitive thoughts, and just constantly moving and thinking. So I just got distracted.
And I can tell if I haven't meditated because I don't normally get annoyed. Things just don't bother me.
Right, and I mean,
if I
it's,
don't practice my meditation, I notice I'm like, I'm starting to get annoyed at people. Like, that's not normal for me. It's like, it calms you, it makes you less triggered by things, you know, it's like.
oh yeah, listen you all, I was a totally different cat 15 years ago. I was hot-tempered, triggered easily, and before I would speak, I wouldn't think before I would speak. Got myself into a lot of messes, but I'm not that person anymore. You know, things don't bother me like they used to. I can't eliminate the stress and all the worries, but I have a way to control how it affects me and how it feels in my body. But it has been life-changing for me. I'm a totally different person. Still get stressed, still get overwhelmed, still get anxious, but we're not going to get rid of that. But we can breathe through it. And so now I'm not those same triggers that used to get me 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. So, you know, does it really matter? So it really changes your whole perspective, your outlook, everything. So thank you guys so much. I teach yoga at Studio B downtown. I would love for you guys to join me. It's a beautiful studio. And there's all kinds of good stuff happens there. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. I hope you learned. Reach out if you want to. I'd love to hear from you.